Donc chaque patient a droit de 2 seaux. Il y a un seau pour les vomissements, un seau pour faire la toilette.
The two women are in a critical state. They were probably not quick enough in getting to the treatment centre.
Vous n'avez pas peur pour votre santé?
Yeah, he's scared for his own health, but he knows exactly how Ebola is transmitted and he knows what he needs to do to minimize that risk. That's the type of guy that you want to work with in an Ebola outbreak. Not the American doctor gets off the plane, swaggers around, gets infected, infects you. This is the guy. He's scared all the time, but he knows exactly what he's doing. In part one, we looked at an Ebola outbreak before the international aid arrives. In part two, we're going to look at how to stop Ebola. Why are we looking at 12-year-old footage? Because we're back to square one. There's no vaccine, there's no treatment. And this is the way it was in 2014 with Zaire Ebola. The ETU, it has to be a safe place for health workers. If your health workers are getting infected and dying, the entire community knows about it, and patients, they don't want to go inside anymore. So how do they make it safe? This is an MSF facility. There is water everywhere. Okay, there's water for washing. There is also water with different concentrations of bleach. See, chlorine bleach kills Ebola virus. It's really simple, but very difficult to implement. I mean, just imagine all of the staff that are making sure that these containers are filled to the top all the time with the proper concentration of chlorine. And there's a lot more that goes into setting up an ETU than just this. It is complicated. Even though this ETU is being constructed on the site of an existing hospital, it's a facility within a facility because they have to get the Ebola patients away from the other hospital patients. So triage, observation, treatment, they all require their own spaces.
Ici, c'est la tente, c'est la nouvelle tente. On va mettre au moins 8 patients ici. 8 patients. Si vous trouvez, il y a des seaux. Donc, chaque patient a droit de 2 seaux. Il y a un seau pour les vomissements, un seau pour faire la toilette. Les draps, on les change souvent. Si le malade a fait caca ou bien il a fait la vomissement dans les draps, on va les brûler. On ne peut pas les nettoyer, directement on les brûle.
Yeah, this is what a treatment tent looks like. You know, it's organized for maximum efficiency. 8 patients in a single tent. They are going to be having diarrhea. They're going to be vomiting. And this is the most efficient way of collecting that infectious waste so you can decontaminate it. You might be a little shocked at these conditions, but MSF has tremendous experience. They know exactly what they're doing. And in addition to this treatment ward with beds, buckets, what do they set up? The laboratory.
Blood samples from new patients are taken to these experts at an EU mobile laboratory.
And you see how careful they have to be. They are cleaning the boxes that transported the samples. They're cleaning the outside of the tubes. It's very complicated lab work. They have to amplify the DNA and look for Ebola-specific genes. After 2014, so after this documentary, they actually developed more automated systems. Same technology, but a lot easier to perform. But remember, this is Bundibuyo. So those tests don't actually detect Bundibuyo virus. This is what they are doing right now in Eastern Congo. They are setting up labs like this. These are life or death samples. And clinicians, I'm sure, are just breathing down your back. They want these results as soon as possible. And you have to remember not to get infected. Where are all of these blood samples coming from? They're coming from the ETU in the area for the suspected patients. This doctor is going into this area for suspected patients, and you can see it's just cordoned off by this red safety netting. There's bleach everywhere. Do not drink is what it says.
His first consultation is with a family who arrived the night before. A young boy, accompanied by his mother and grandmother. It's not uncommon to see several members of the family arrive together, having been contaminated by each other.
This is why the lab is so important. The grandmother and mother are very sick. The clinicians think they have Ebola. They take blood, they send it to the laboratory. When that test comes back positive, they move those patients to the Ebola Treatment Tent, which you saw earlier.
The two women are in a critical state. They were probably not quick enough in getting to the treatment center.
It was too late for these patients. The grandmother apparently died while the cameras were on, and the mother died a few days later. But this is exactly why you can't stop an Ebola outbreak just by setting up ETUs and laboratories, because the patients are getting infected in the community. By the time they get to the hospital, they are extremely sick, and they have probably infected a lot of people in their homes. So you can't just wait for those family members to get sick and then maybe make it to the hospital to be treated. You have to go find those patients. And that is what is called contact tracing.
They're heading to a village where Ebola has already killed an old man. Everyone they encounter, even those who look healthy, could be infectious.
These are contact tracers in Sierra Leone during the 2014 outbreak. So they know there's somebody who died in the village with Ebola probably, and they want to find out what's going on with the family members. So they drive out there. And there's only 4 vehicles for 4 million people, according to this documentary. That's clearly inadequate. If you have a large outbreak with a lot of cases, there's no way that you can really keep up.
The surveillance team are talking to this young girl over here to see if she is showing signs of the Ebola virus. She's clearly in distress, and we know that her father-in-law has already died of Ebola.
Kadiatu Jusu is 25 years old, the mother of 4 children.
So immediately, they have found a new patient. I mean, this is the whole point of contact tracing.
Her husband Fala is a farmer. He's 35. It was his father who died 2 weeks ago. Manjo disinfects Kadiatu's home with chlorine.
Now he's putting on PPE. He enters the house to disinfect with bleach. They're also interviewing everybody in the community and writing down all 70 people who had contact with the person who died. They're going to check up with them over the next few days. At the same time, they are explaining the symptoms of Ebola, what you have to do if you have these symptoms. They're explaining that to all of the neighbors, everybody in the community. And you know, these people, they know about Ebola. They've seen this before. But you have to take every opportunity to reinforce those key messages.
My father passed away. She too is going with the same thing that is
Fala can't risk touching his wife to say goodbye.
She has seen her father-in-law die with the same symptoms. She knows she's going to get sicker. She's going to become more infectious. So given the choice, she decides to go to the hospital because that's going to prevent her children from being infected. Do you see that shivering? That's called rigors, and that happens when you have very, very high fevers. And it must just be surreal going into this ETU surrounded by staff with spacesuits. She knows that there's no treatment for Ebola. She knows that most people who go into this place don't ever come out again. But she's made a rational decision for her family.
Nearby, Kadiatu's symptoms are growing worse. And now the hearse that doubles as an ambulance has arrived with another case from her village. It's her husband, Fala.
Again, this is contact tracing. So the first day, the dad didn't have any symptoms. But the next day, in that short period of time, he starts developing symptoms of Ebola. And they bring him to the ETU and he gets admitted.
He's left their 4 children in the village and now joins his wife in the isolation ward.
Again, you take them out of the home and you're trying to prevent those family members from being infected.
Hello, Kadiatu. How you feel now? It better small, eh? Past yesterday, I see the love. Hey, follow Jisu. When I get a message, I'll go tell the people they under.
Let them pray God for me.
God will take care and we say we will try. Yeah?
Nanya gigwala nyali nyane gwala. If I nyali gena Saloma.
Believe say God will help them and not will follow the same thing.
It's Kadiatu's 6th night in isolation. She's still very sick, but she's more worried about her husband, Fala.
So back in 2014 in Sierra Leone, there was no specific treatment for Ebola. These patients, they are on their own. Fundamentally, they are waiting for their immune systems to fight off Ebola. And clearly the mom is winning the battle, but the dad is losing.
With both Fala and Kadiatu in the hospital, Manjo returns to their village to check on their 4 sons.
Where Fala in Pekin? Sasko. Let them come.
To everyone's relief, they're healthy, but they're missing their mum and dad.
This is why they do contact tracing. It's too early to say that the kids have completely escaped Ebola. You have to wait 21 days for that. But obviously, this is a really good sign.
We return to the hospital with Manjo and the children's message. Against the odds, Kadiatu is feeling better.
Fala is back. Oh my God.
Fala has been vomiting blood, but he wants to see the message from his children.
How you feel? Mama and Papa.
Lost water.
You lost water? The fella is much more sick than Kadiatu. Anything he eats, he vomits.
The contact tracing team is showing video messages from the kids. You know, that helps patients morally, it helps their psychological outlook. And in this case, you know, the dad is probably his last chance to see images of his kids because he doesn't make it. Let's go back to our MSF hygienist from the other documentary in 2014 from Guinea.
Vous n'avez pas peur pour votre santé?
Même si on a peur, mais avec les mesures de protection, lorsqu'on les respecte à la rigueur et avec beaucoup de rigueur, je crois on ne dit pas qu'on est à 100% en sécurité, mais la sécurité est là pour ne pas 98%. Je suis là, c'est mon 5e mois. Et une fois, je me demande à quand la fin de Ebola. C'est surtout la question qui me hante chaque fois que je pose ma tête sur l'oreille. C'est ça, c'est tout.
You know, that is an experienced Ebola worker. He has seen a lot, more than anyone should. And he just wants this outbreak to be over. And I am sure right now in Eastern Congo, there are health workers that are thinking the same thing. They just want it to be over. But this is just the beginning. There are months to go. I hope that you got a sense of how complex an Ebola outbreak response is. It's not just the Ebola Treatment Unit, but it's also this very complicated contact tracing and community education. There are clinical trials going on right now in the Congo. Hopefully some of these new treatments are going to be effective. There are some new lab tests that hopefully are going to be more effective and are easier to perform than what we have now. MSF and other international organizations, they are going in. I will keep you updated on any new developments. I'll see you next time.